Good afternoon. We are here at the UN where the 8th Nuclear Non-Proliferation Conference is underway. Thousands of civil society representatives at the conference will be advocating for complete nuclear disarmament rather than just non-proliferation. UN member states and civil society are well aware that states like Israel, Pakistan and India and South Africa under apartheid have been allowed to develop nuclear weapons with no punitive action by the international community, whilst others like Iran, Iraq, North Korea have been subject to punitive sanctions and even invasion. Fortunate to have with us today Betty Wolfson, who's walked all the way from Northampton, Massachusetts to advocate for nuclear disarmament, nuclear non-proliferation. So what would be your desired outcome for this NPT review conference?
Myself and the walkers feel very strongly that the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty in its original form was very strong. The fact that it wasn't adhered to leads us to believe that it may be necessary for it to be revamped so that it really speaks to the needs of the nations. The forums that I had the good fortune to attend, it overwhelmingly seems that the countries of the world are very tired of the large amounts of nuclear weapons that proliferate the planet. And even though President Obama made an effort with the START, it is just scratching the surface. The many hundreds of people that walked for a nuclear-free future want to see a total abolishment of nuclear weapons and nuclear energy on the planet for the safety of our children and our children's children.
Thank you. What criticisms do you have of the double standard that kind of exists between the UK, the US, France, China and Russia being allowed nuclear weapons and their allies being allowed nuclear weapons, and then other countries like Iran, Iraq, North Korea, there's whispers of them having nuclear weapons and we're allowed to go in, kind of give punitive sanctions, even invade these countries?
Well, we as walkers have spent the last 2 and 3 months walking across the northeast and up from Tennessee to be here in time for the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. And I have to say, along the way, we sing a song. It's "Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me." Well, that's how we feel. It has to begin with each country. The United States needs to take responsibility and be the example that it could be. We need to drastically reduce our numbers until it's absolute abolishment. We're standing underneath the quote of Isaiah, and if I could, I'd like to read it. The quote says, "They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nations shall not take up swords against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore." Isaiah. We are pacifists. We believe that no human being should harm another human being. Nuclear weapons are the travesty of the extreme example of our militarism. We live in a time when the United States budget, military budget, is greater than all the other nations of the world combined. The next nation whose budget is China. It has 60 billion. We have over 700 billion spent for a nuclear budget, and that's not even including the real figures for Iraq and Afghanistan. So our hope and our prayer is that our military, the militarism of our country can be diverted and converted so that this vast amount of monies can go back to the people of the nation for education, health care, improving the cities. We walked on roads that were barely existent. You know, if the towns were given back their billions of tax dollars so that their money could be diverted from our military back into the communities, the face of the United States, the face of the planet would be very different. We need to move away from militarism.
Thank you. And finally, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty it obviously says, no to non-proliferation and encourages disarmament, but it also has a measure about peaceful means for nuclear technology. And so on one hand, it's saying nuclear weapons are bad, but nuclear technology is good.
Nuclear technology is not green, not safe, not sustainable. It pollutes every portion of the planet, the air, the earth, the soil, and all the plants and animals that inhabit the planet. It's never been safe, never been green, and never been sustainable. Uranium, plutonium, they're supposed to stay deep inside the earth so that they pollute nothing. The so-called depleted uranium, it's the only use that they found for the waste in nuclear. I don't call them power plants because I don't want to equate them with the beautiful trees. They're nuclear power facilities, and the only use that they have found is to use on warheads, nuclear warheads, which now have done the deed of totally polluting cities like Fallujah, that is now uninhabitable for the next 1,500 years. No woman can bear a child in Fallujah without the fear of having a child that is going to have cancer or birth defects. My feeling is that nuclear energy is a travesty, and we need to be looking for truly green and sustainable ways of creating energy for the people of the planet.
Well, thank you very much for meeting with us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you.